Cowboy fans left here in the cold after the team was iced out of the playoffs by the Packers, and this was a team that many thought would actually make it to a Super Bowl, but they didn't even show up to play. So many fans say they're disgusted and want change.
We just lost, man. I came from there and we lost. Y'all ain't nobody else, man.
Disgusted.
I am upset. You feel me? I am from Virginia. I flew all the way in today to watch this. I'm sad.
Frustrated.
We got another Romo on our hands. Choke like a...
Disappointed.
We need another quarterback, another coach, everything. It don't matter to me. It don't matter.
That's how Cowboys fans felt after watching the team implode once again in the playoffs.
We need help. We need Jesus.
Yes.
Many blaming the coaches.
Mike McCarthy losing at home against the Packers.
Says a lot.
I think legacy gone, man. Like, you won a Super Bowl with the Packers, and then you go take over a new team, and you lose at home against that team.
Without Aaron Rodgers.
You know,
It's embarrassing.
Others, the quarterback.
No more Dak Prescott.
ASAP, new quarterback.
Dak, get him out of here. Trey Lance, the next stud. Let's go. Let's go, Rangers.
And many fans demanding change.
12-5, 12-5, 12-5. Who cares when we lose like this to the freaking Packers who shouldn't even be here? It's disgusting. Let's get a real head coach. And if he can't do it for us, let's get a new quarterback. I'm tired.
Fans came from all over and dealt with the cold weather just to watch this mess.
We drove far for no reason.
Fans say they were fed up and freezing.
We're from Florida. We're freezing our off.
I still here since 10, just to freeze, to lose. Not worth it.
There was enough blame to go around as the Cowboys suffered one of the most embarrassing losses in the team's playoff history. And now fans are left disappointed once again. At AT&T Stadium, I'm Rebecca Lopez.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 323. I am your host, Reid Murphy, not the imitators from last week. But
I am your guest, Zuhair Ali.
Yeah, there he is. And that deep voice, Scott Ellia, over there.
Dad's back from his work.
Dad's back. Home is not alone anymore. But always appreciate and love you guys. Thank you guys for taking over last week. You guys did really well. You know that? Did you? I don't know if you all listened back to yourselves or watched any of it, but you two were really good.
Yeah, I listened back to it a couple of days later in my travels for work, and I told Zoo after we were done, I think that was the best episode of Ricks versus Gricks in the history of the 323.
I think so too. I think that's what the people are saying. That's what you got to go with. Good
That's what
job.
happens when you have a new Rick or Grick or whichever one I'm replacing.
I mean, technically last week you all were Rick and the Grick. So
Zwick?
The Zwick and the Sick.
Oh,
hey.
I'm down with the Sick. Yes.
Hey, it's a fun week. It's a good week to be back. I mean, any week post Dallas Cowboys playoff loss. Not to be a hater or anything, because, and by the way, they took it really hard because then there were Cowboys fans shit talking me before I could even say anything. I was like, I'm not even saying anything. Like, your Commanders fan, y'all didn't even make the playoffs. So I was like, y'all just played one more game. So that's it. You play one more game than my team. I don't give a shit.
You lost so much draft space for playing one more game.
That's it. And so then you see, like, you know, videos like that from WFAA News in Dallas, and then you get the pictures like we have up here in the corner. If you're watching on the 323 network on YouTube, we got the sad Cowboys fans all up there. It's something great every year from it. You get these people who are just, you know, just crying and feeling like shit. And then you have the Packers fans, like that one random Packers lady was my favorite part of the video in there. Just cracking up. She
just
was
smug laughter.
Loving it's like the devil for Dallas.
I still need my fanfare because I was the only one of the four that actually picked the Packers to beat the Cowboys last week in Ricks versus Gricks. So I need my fanfare, please. Thank you.
I said too that would have been the most likely upset, and I didn't go with it.
Yeah. There were a couple. Look, man, I'm like that high school quarterback in that meme. They had us in the first half because those first three games, I was real worried. I went 0-3. I was like, this has been a rough week. It's been a tough week. Give me something here. I can't, I was like, that's why I'm going 0-3. Thank God the Bills, Bucks, they all came in clutch for me, which we need to talk about the Eagles a little bit later and all that going down in Tampa.
I was about to say, this is already probably the greatest NFL postseason in history, because not only did you have the toxic Dallas Cowboy fans crying, but then you had the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Philadelphia Eagle fans all bitching and moaning this past week, and I'm loving it.
And look at you just thriving when you were expecting a 4-win season.
I know.
The crazy thing is, I think the Rams and Lions were the only actual game over the weekend. Everything else was just huge score differentials.
Mm-hmm.
And that can happen year to year, where it feels like wild card weekend is either going to be a bunch of super crazy upsets, or just really awesome games, or they're going to be some shitty games. To me, it seems annually the divisional round weekend, which we're going into right now, is typically what I think is the best weekend in sports and the best weekend in NFL playoffs. So here's hoping that's the case again. Sometimes the championship games can kind of let up a little bit after this, but I mean, at the very least from wildcard weekend, we got a week of all the Cowboys stress and tears and all that. I mean, shit, even the reporter there, shout out to Rebecca Lopez for just being a savage and just taking things into her own hands with these quotes.
They didn't even show up to play. So
objective journalism right there. And I mean, on top of that, I know you guys talked about the Peacock exclusive game a little bit. And that was if you follow the show on all the social medias at 323 Reid, it was one of the best things that we got into right at the start of the week, which was New York sports radio legend Mike Francesa, the Pope, attempting to find Peacock and to watch that game, and just the stress he was going through trying to go through all these apps.
Then here we are. This is it. This is what the NFL wanted. This is what the NFL paid $110 million for. Me not knowing how to find this game, and a bunch of I guarantee I'm not the only one now struggling to find how to watch this game. What do we got here? We got, because there's so many streaming services, okay, that I have no idea which one I'm supposed to. I know it's called Peacock, okay, but is Peacock part of another subscription, another app? We have Prime. We have something called Crunchyroll with a girl there. I don't know what that means. We got AMC Plus. We got Paramount Plus. We have everything, folks, except Football Plus. Okay? I mean, the NFL ought to be ashamed. I mean, what do we got here? We got Max. Yeah. Stars. We got Stars. I don't know what that is. MGM. I mean, this is just an absolute joke. Anything and everything but sports. That is the future of sports. Everything but sports.
Oh, it was just so much stress in his voice, so much disappointment in his voice. I mean, the Crunchyroll part is the best part.
Crunchyroll.
Well, it's first of all, homeboy needs to clear his throat, because it sounded like he's had phlegm just built up there for decades. And this is just a classic boomer mentality. You sound so fucking helpless, and you try to chirp on how millennials this and millennials that. Bro, you know the name of it. You see the search button, and fuck, he has a subscription. He subscribes to things. Don't act like you're clueless. Just for clicks.
Plus.
And if you have that much of a followership, that's what your video could have been. It's someone help me out with this.
Well, and my thing, but if you clock it from the time he starts bitching until the end of that video, he could have very well easily searched Peacock, downloaded it, and signed in, and already had the game on if he just stopped fucking bitching.
Right after we finished that episode last week, too, something rolled up on Twitter. It's some people actually convincing themselves that spending $100 at a bar to watch a game makes more sense than the $6 from a month you have to pay just to watch this. And just that's kind of the point that I brought up too. I think that backed it up perfectly.
I know Peacock's not the most popular streaming service that people want, but fuck, I already have Peacock. It's not any difference to me.
Yeah, I already had it.
And people should already be used to this, because you can stream football. What is it? Monday nights on Hulu. or Amazon Prime. Sunday nights on Amazon Prime. So it's like this is something that people aren't already accustomed to.
Yeah.
It's like you're just bitching to bitch.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
And if you did get Peacock just to watch the game and need to make some value out of it, go watch The Continental because that show is incredible.
I want to know if he downloaded Crunchyroll.
He totally did.
Crunchyroll.
He was just catching up on Jujutsu Kaisen so he could listen to Animation Deliberation.
Oh gosh.
I was gonna say, what do you think Mike Francesa's top 5 shows on Crunchyroll are?
I don't know, but I hope that it was like one of the fan service ones. Like him just accidentally hitting that and just like, oh no. Oh no. Could you imagine him starting Konosuba or something? That'd be hilarious.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
You talk about us needing to clear our throat, Scott. Oh my God, we talk about him clearing his throat.
Why are we all coughing?
Oh, but it's been a fun week. It's been plenty going on throughout sports, throughout especially football. And I think it's time to get into a lot of these, and especially with this past wild card weekend. And we talked already about we've dove into the Cowboys, and I think there's still plenty to talk about, especially with the all the Mike McCarthy talk of this past week. And his job is safe. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones announced it last night on Wednesday night, saying that Mike McCarthy would be back. And I think it's a interesting discussion, and one that I've been having with Cowboys fans this week as to why you bring Mike McCarthy back and why it's kind of hard to get rid of him. But I also want to talk about all of the losing teams from this past weekend and you guys' thoughts on them and what can be done to improve for next year. Like, what of these losing teams has the best shot at returning next season and actually making up some ground? We had the Cowboys lose. We had the Rams lose. We had the Browns lose. Steelers lost. Dolphins lost. And the Philadelphia Eagles, of course, on Monday night to Scott's Tampa Bay Bucks. They lost. But I'll start right here with the Cowboys and following up on that news of them, keeping Mike McCarthy, much to fan disappointment. Fans, as you heard in that video, wanted Mike McCarthy gone. They want Dak Prescott gone, which I think is an even tougher and more outlandish thing. It's Romo 2.0 all over again of underappreciation. But what I was trying to tell a couple Cowboys fan friends here who wanted Mike McCarthy gone, you have to start to question, yes, this is a great year of coaching free agency, right? Bill Belichick is out there. Jim Harbaugh's out there, proven guys who can go out there and lead you to championships. But you can't fire somebody who got you a 12-win season again, like Mike McCarthy has. And I'm not a Mike McCarthy fan. I think that he is an underachiever. I think he makes terrible decisions every now and then, but he will get you into the playoffs, into a high seed, 12 wins, and shit the bed right there in the first weekend. But how do you fire somebody that you know is going to get you, at this point, it's proven he's going to get you at least 10 or 11 wins a season, and you can't do it unless you know that you're going to get a Bill Belichick or a Jim Harbaugh type. Jerry Jones is a meddlesome owner. He is somebody that says he wants to win at all costs, but he's obviously been lying about that because he doesn't want to give up power. That is an issue with Jimmy Johnson in the past, where they're butting heads over the power structure, who's getting the credit here. And when you see the people that Jerry's hired, Jason Garrett was literally a ventriloquist dummy sitting on Jerry's lap for 10 years, had his hands up right. You say it like that. I got Jerry's hand right up his ass. It's just doing all the talk. Jerry's doing weekly radio shows. You don't see any owners doing this kind of thing outside of Jim Irsay doing, some type of bars where he's doing band appearances. But you're not going to get Bill Belichick to do the same things that Mike McCarthy and Jason Garrett have done for you. You're not going to get Jim Harbaugh to do that. That's not their personality types. That's not their coaching philosophies. They want some type of organizational power and roster control on that team that they're going to be coaching. Jerry as desperate as he says he is not going to be that desperate. He's not going to give up that power. And I mean, honestly, for Cowboys fans, I don't see any hope for that team in escaping that kind of thing until the crypt keeper is actually in the crypt and Steven, his son, takes over that team, and you have Will McClay running the full roster control and all of that. They have a capable front office. They have capable talent. It's mind-numbing to see them just waste it like this, but I guess you just have to hope at that point, if you're not going to get Jim Harbaugh, you're not going to get Bill Belichick, it's kind of a risk to take a chance on like a first-year head coach at that point, like Ben Johnson or Slowick, who these guys, everybody are they're very coveted. You got to just roll it with Mike McCarthy and Dak again and hope that that talent can actually bubble up together. You can't really blame injuries this season outside of Trayvon Diggs. Leighton Vander Esch went down, but he always does. The defense was still performing at a high level. I don't know what they're going to do with Dan Quinn. But altogether, the Cowboys, I thought, even with what happened with Philly, we kind of prepared for it. I thought the Dallas Cowboys loss that week, as good as the Packers are, they're impressive, they're fun. That is still the most disappointing loss of the weekend and the playoffs so far to me. So I'll be curious to see what their future looks like. But honestly, it's just going to be the same thing next season. I don't see how it's not. You might add a couple cool pieces that makes, maybe bring you up to 13 wins. Maybe you'll get the bye week there in the playoffs. That's all you can hope for, but I still don't see anything changing. I don't know what you guys took from Wild Card Weekend or what you think about the losers, but Scott, I'll let you go ahead and kick it off.
Yeah, no, and to reiterate the whole Cowboy situation, I don't think you're going to see it improve at all until he's gone, as in the Crypt Keeper himself, Jerry Jones. Because you got to think about not even just Jason Garrett, but there's been a revolving door of head coaches that only get like a 3-year pass. I mean, Wade Phillips was there for about 3 years. He got them 2 NFC East championships, a couple playoff berths. You had the Hall of Fame coach Bill Parcells for there for about 3 years. Same thing, like 2 or 3 playoff berths. But you have Mike McCarthy, who's now has 3 straight 12-5 seasons. The best thing to kind of think about is these Dallas Cowboy fans are the most reactive fans, I think, in all of sports. You have to take a seat, let logic kind of run its course. If you were to let go of Mike McCarthy, if you were to let go of Dak Prescott, how fast do you think another team's calling them to get them on their team? And if you know that without a shadow of a doubt that another team would grab them as quickly as they can, then you have something. You're not going to win every year. Sometimes this is what happens. And, you just got to readjust. I think the biggest problem that Green Bay kind of exposed there in Dallas is their rushing defense. I think they got to add a couple pieces on the defensive line, maybe in the interior. You have plenty of weapons on offense with Tony Pollard and Dak and CD and other wide receivers they have. But I think that's their biggest issue is on that defensive front. And then Jerry Jones.
And I agree with you on the the run defense there. And that was something that they did try to address mid-season when Shaquille Leonard, formerly Darius Leonard, appeared in free agency. And they made a push for him. He wound up going to Philly. Obviously didn't really help that much from what you see. But they do need to improve in some places there. Zoo, what did you catch from this weekend?
For that game specifically, I actually made the comparison that they're basically the NFC's version of the Bills, where they do have the coaching talent, they do have the offensive weapons, the defensive weapons. They do really great throughout the season. They play fantastic at home. They have a very loyal fan base, but just something about the playoffs. You just can't get it together. I don't think I really have too much more to add. I mean, they're not ready for a rebuild. I don't know what their contract situation is like right now, but they are a couple of pieces away from just staying competitive. But on top of that, it's just kind of like the NFL is tough to win in, and the playoffs especially are tough to win in. So I hate to say that I think that they have a good thing going and great resources and a competitive future, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. In regards to other games that we had, like I mentioned, I think the Rams and Lions was kind of like the only actual game that we had, right? Everything else was just so bad of a shutout and so big. Like, to see quarterbacks actually get benched just to rest them so much this weekend was quite wild. So that was a really good game. I thought the Rams were going to sneak one in. I wanted the Lions to win, but that was one where I just kind of like listened to my head over my heart, and it didn't work out. Great for the Lions. I just literally the only reason I want them to lose is so that we can interview Ben Johnson sooner. Good for the Packers. Like, I don't think I'd actually like watched many Packers games, so the fact that they're off to such a great start, like, hats off to LaFleur for getting all these young guys going. Great job with the Bucks. Those Eagles injuries were just something else. I feel a little bit more bad for them because they just didn't have their arsenal and they've just been faltering and they can't get their defense together. It's still really funny because just getting Adam Peters on a Friday, seeing the Cowboys lose on Saturday, Eagles lose on Sunday, and then having the Adam Peters press conference on Monday, it was just a great 4-day streak. What else do we have? Steelers. Yeah, I didn't expect much from them anyways. That was just sad. Sorry, Mason Rudolph. Dolphins, I had them going to the Super Bowl, but I wasn't surprised the Chiefs won. That cold was just something else, and there was I got to give more credit to the Chiefs defense. They're very impressive to watch, and that Flacco magic definitely flamed out. And again, just hats off to how well the Texans are doing for being such a young team.
I agree with you quite a bit on the Dolphins-Chiefs game. I don't want to take anything away from the Chiefs. That Chiefs defense is really incredible this season.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to be an issue for Buffalo this week. I think that cold certainly helped them. And the Dolphins did not seem as ready as they could have been for that cold. Tua, it's a little concerning how he plays in this weather. Like, I know he's from, Hawaii kid, went to Bama and all, but it's kind of concerning at this point that he can't seem to play in cold weather. Like, they require home field advantage. It sucks for them that
start doing jiu-jitsu in the cold.
That's going to be a great Cobra Kai season. It's just him getting prepared with somebody.
Don't speak it into existence, please.
He needs the warm weather. The Dolphins need that
exclusively
warm
on Peacock
and AMC Plus.
Oh dear God!
You brought up the Steelers. Honestly, I didn't take so much as sadness away from the Steelers on that.
It was expected.
It was expected, but I think they honestly played a little bit better than expected in my eyes, at least. The fact that they kept it competitive for a good chunk of the game was a little impressive, especially without TJ Watt in that game. Like, they need a quarterback so badly.
Mm-hmm.
They need somebody as a game changer in there. They're not the type to go out in free agency and pick up like a Kirk Cousins, but I think he would be so beneficial to them, especially with Tomlin coming back for another year. And they're looking at outside help, according to him, at offensive coordinator. They want somebody with experience. Bieniemy, I don't know. That the Browns, like you said, Flacco magic just kind of wore off. Don't know what their future really is, especially with Deshaun Watson. You're stuck with him. You can't get rid of him. So you just have to hope and pray he improves. I don't personally. Eagles, all those injuries. Again, it was expected on our part. People on TikTok thought we were crazy to all go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You look at it, the injuries were down. The momentum was a complete downward shift. They had to go break into the arsenal and get Big Dom on the sideline just to try and get any type of momentum. Didn't happen for them. Jalen Hurts needs some better help on, with offensive coordinator. Of course, it's a big deal when you don't have AJ Brown. That's a big plus for the Bucs for going into that game. But man, Baker tore them up. And that Rams-Lions game, it was fun for the Lions. I was happy for them, Cinderella team that you're rooting for. But that game was a little more ill will, a little more bad will than I thought it was going to be. And they asked Matt Stafford after the game, they're like, "Hey, you happy for the people of Detroit?" He was like, "I'm happy for the players." He got booed really heavily at the start of the game. didn't really think he was going to. It seemed like Lions fans have been happy for him for a while.
His wife had to like come out and just be like, "We're very disappointed in you guys."
Yeah, they booed his kids.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's true.
Jesus Christ.
What's worse, booing somebody's kids or booing the widow of a former GM like the Chicago Bulls fans did to their former GM?
We all know where I stand on children just being on the limelight. You boo them. You got to build their thick skin. I think booing the poor widow on the court is just bad. A bad look.
Yeah, I'd have to go with the widow. I think if you're just an NFL player's kid, you're exposed to that kind of stuff a lot and just get used to it.
Drew
did you see the
Brees' kids would have been handled that well?
Did you see the Good Morning Football thing about like how does Matt Stafford feel that after getting traded and the Lions doing better, like having to always think about he's the problem in Detroit? Like he was the issue there. I was like, ooh, that's
Matthew Stafford still has something that Detroit doesn't have, and that's a Super Bowl win. So
yeah,
it's okay. You don't care about no booze. But Reid, you bring up a point like of the 6 losers, like who's gonna probably return back next year? And I think it's pretty clear between the Cowboys, the Dolphins, and the Eagles. They have the most pieces like they're gonna retain. But the Cowboys, they need to figure out that rush defense. The Dolphins, I feel like they just need to address that offensive line and just keep trying to protect Tua as much as they possibly can. And then the Eagles, I mean, you can see how exposed that Baker made their secondary at that point. Like they need some secondary help desperately in Philadelphia.
They really
Emmanuel Forbes.
Hey, you got Cam Curl coming off. I poach him from you guys.
Don't do that to Zoo.
Stop.
That's the biggest move I have for the Commanders right now, like retaining Cameron Curl. Like,
yes,
don't let him go.
Him and Cosme need a contract like now.
So honestly, the Rams. What do you think about the Rams? Because I was surprised that they even made it, and I feel like Zoo's giving them a thumbs up, but I'm surprised that they even made the playoffs, and I feel like that was just off of the will of Sean McVay and coaching and that scheme that makes one Puka Nakua blow up more than our Cooper Cup.
It's a cup.
And I'm curious what pieces they would need to improve and actually continue to make the playoffs next year and actually get out of this wild card round, or are they just going to be a perennial wild card team from now on?
What would you say the problem is? Because I can't even put my finger on it. Like, is it some people just need to retire, or do they need a full reboot? Like,
to me, it's just I think it's that. I think it's the retirement. They're aging out. They put all their pieces in originally, even for that Super Bowl, on aging players. With they already have Andrew Whitworth retired. Aaron Donald's been threatening retirement for a couple of years now, and as still dominant as he is, he took a step back. They've just always, to me, needed some help when it comes to like pass rush and shoring up their D line. If they could do that, it seems like everything else is pretty well competitive. And Matt Stafford, that dude can still fucking play. Dude was hurling the ball down the field and great plays. And now he's got somebody to really bring some youthful energy out in him, like Puka Nakua and Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams is a dog.
He really just has to stay healthy throughout the season, Stafford.
That's the key. Now, yes, Scott?
I was going to say, if you actually look at the edge rushers who are going to be coming off this year for free agency, I mean, you have Brian Burns sitting there. You don't think Brian Burns is an immediate impact player? Or hell, Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, he's going to be out there. I know he's a little older, but he's almost had like a resurgence in Baltimore this year. And I don't think he's going to be retained there. I don't think he's really stayed anywhere more than a year or two ever since he left Cleveland. But then you have like Daniel Hunter from Minnesota. Like he's coming out. Yannick Ngakoue. Chase Young's going to be up for bid. I mean, there's plenty of edge help, but I think that's their biggest thing is that pass rush.
Rams would be an interesting place for Chase Young to try and get a resurgence. I would be curious to see, especially if they retain Raheem Morris as their defensive coordinator. Now, we brought up injuries, so we're talking about injuries, and that segues me to a team that was heavily injured in the Philadelphia Eagles. It's expected that they're going to keep Nick Sirianni as their head coach. We talked about this a couple weeks ago about the hot seat for him and all the issues with coaching. It looks like they're having the exact meeting that we talked about of, hey, what are we going to do to improve? And now Howie Roseman is working with them on, figuring out coordinators for next year. You set yourself to shit the bed when you put Matt Patricia, the man who keeps a pencil in his ear while holding a laminated sheet of paper that you'll never use that pencil on. You put him at defensive coordinator to run your team in the middle of the season, out of nowhere, shocked everybody. And their offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson, he's getting a lot of head coaching interviews, but to me, the offense took a serious step back just in terms of play calling. So I don't know what Philly does there when it comes to coaching, but do you think it's a good move, Zoo, to keep Nick Sirianni as the head coach?
I don't think it's a bad move because you've done nothing but get better since he got here. Like, even the way the season started, I think it was just the injuries and the bad defensive calling just played them. I don't think they realized how good they actually I get a lot of people wanted Gannon gone, but now you're seeing like how much of an impact he actually did have with the pieces that he had. I think it just comes down to just prioritizing what you're actually lacking in defense when it comes down to the draft and the early picks.
Yeah, it's the same conversation that we just had with Dallas. Like, do you think if you let Nick Sirianni go, that's not going to be another team trying to snatch him up as quickly as you can? Like, it's another reactive kind of statement. Like, leave him alone. He is his third year at the helm in Philadelphia. His first year was 9-8, then 14-3. They went to the Super Bowl, and then this year 11-6. I mean, you honestly can probably put the wheels coming off at the end of the year probably on Matt Patricia, because I mean, out of the last 6 games, they went 1-5. And especially if you're on a 1-5 skid going into the playoffs, like your team's already floundering. Like, you shouldn't have had expectations that you're going to come out with the injuries on top of it, beating the bricks off of anybody in the playoffs. Nick Sirianni isn't the problem. The toxic fan bases are the problem, just like in Dallas. We're seeing it here in Philly. They need to be quiet.
Don't talk about our guy like that.
That's all.
But it's like, then you see all this shit going on with Jalen Hurts about wanting to get rid of him. Okay, aside from Kirk Cousins, do you know who's all going to be out for free agent this year? Ryan Tannehill, Jacoby, Tyrod, you got Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston. You want Jameis Winston under center? Or would you rather have Jalen Hurts?
Well, I would rather have Jalen Hurts, but Jameis Winston's we've talked about that. That's a fun guy to have. He's a fun guy to have around there.
He would love to do the tush push.
Bring Carson Wentz back. I'm sure
he's happy in LA.
Didn't we get a little Carson Wentz appearance at
he was warming up and then Stafford came back
on
in.
the sideline.
That's not as fun.
I think it was a concussion check for Stafford.
Yes.
He definitely got smashed. I don't know what the hell the concussion protocol was doing right there, but that seemed like a concussion there. I've seen
his hand started doing the Tua like hand signals. It just didn't know what was going on.
Though.
That's the hot new summer dance of 2024. Do the Tua.
Do the Tua. I can't do it. I'm not getting canceled.
I already did. It's okay.
Last year, I definitely did the Jason Kelsey a lot. I just want to rock in the end zone. He was just like.